Let's talk.
Before we begin, I don't want to forget to tell you that this is Let's Talk Radio, radical radio, getting to the root causes of the important issues of the day. This on-the-air community forum believes your voice matters and welcomes all thoughts and views without judgment. Please join today's conversation by calling 415-663-8492 or tweet us at Let's Talk on KWMR.
Yes, I have the tweet box in front of me for a change, and it's fully charged. So do tweet us, won't you? Your hosts today are myself, Paul Riffel, answering the phones, and Stephen Hurwitz is leading the conversation today. Robin Carpenter is still trading viruses with her husband, apparently, so she's down and out again. I'm on the phones today, so when you call in, you'll hear a weird little scratchy noise as I put you in the system. Please hang on. When you hear me say you're on the air, please give us your first name, turn down your radio, and please watch your language. Keep it clean, please.
You know, there are some people who never get a virus out without having someone else to blame. Today I'm going to talk about deportation. It's a big subject that's come up, especially with Donald Trump's vows to deport 3 million people. He is planning to add triple the number of ICE agents, and we might get into who ICE is. And they're planning to use ICE biometrics, which is a subject that many of us may not know about, and we're going to cover that.
Biometrics. Wonderful thing. I have it on my tweet box right here. You put my left thumb on this little dot, and it tells whether it's me or not, and it'll open it up to me.
Biometrics. I go to the gym and plug in my phone number, put my finger on a little scanner, and here, have a good workout.
Really? Good. Anyway.
One question, an early question is this. Is Trump so radical? Is his statement that he's going to deport 3 million criminals? That's
right. By the way, yes, do give us a call, won't you? 415-663-8492. If you have any comments, opinions, thoughts, if you have any experiences with deportation or people that you know who have been deported, and that's has your life been affected by that or distantly affected? Is Trump more radical than our beloved President Obama has been? Give us some figures, won't you?
Well, let's see. Since 2009, Mr. Obama has presided over the deportation of 2.5 million immigrants, prompting sharp criticism from advocacy groups. I haven't heard all that sharp criticism for some reason.
Not that much, right? Especially now, because, Saint Barack has left us, and
The New York Times seems to mention that sharp criticism, but he did so in part to build political support. It's political. For a broad revision of immigration laws that would be provided a path to citizenship for immigrants in the countries illegal.
Illegally. I guess I should disclaim myself, because I myself was an illegal immigrant for a couple of years when I lived in Hawaii. I overstayed my visa, and yes, it's not a comforting way to spend your life. You're driving. I was driving without a license, and
oof.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And insurance, no doubt.
And insurance, yeah.
Tell me about, since you were an immigrant, the path to citizenship, you have to take a test.
Exactly.
And I remember hearing that many, many Americans could never pass that test.
Right. Well, for a while there, I have no memory anymore, of course. So for a while there, I knew the Constitution pretty well, and the list of presidents and all that. Yeah, there's a fairly easy test. But the great interesting thing about when I was going through citizenship, this was before the previous election here. I've told this before, but I was in the city, and every office that I went to, I mean, I was living here, but in Marshall, but going to all these different places in San Francisco, fingerprint check in Roanoke Park, right? And none of the offices that I went to had any insignia or any logo on the outside to show that they were government offices.
How interesting.
It was, what's it called? The Homeland Security. ICE is the Immigration Department is part of Homeland Security. And even the Homeland Security building headquarters in San Francisco does not have anything saying that this is Homeland Security headquarters or immigration headquarters.
Well, that makes sense.
Well, does it? When you think about it, the only ones who know where it is are the immigrants. So who are they afraid of? Obviously not the immigrants. They're afraid of you.
Yeah, that's why I say it makes sense. I just want to mention this because there's a difference between language has changed. There's a difference now between someone being deported and someone called removable criminal aliens. Deportation has become removable.
So removable? Yeah, I mean it means what it says. I guess they're fit for deportation. This is under Obama, not under.
And Obama says there are 1.9 million of these removable criminal agents.
So these are undocumented aliens who have committed crimes, who are in jail or have been in jail, or.
They have been arrested. In some ways, you have to think that Trump's approach is going to be, in many ways, more humane than under Obama.
Really?
Well,
how is that?
Well, when somebody's arrested, really what they call detention is really warehoused. Their large warehouses have been converted to places to house recently arrested immigrants, or let's say undocumented.
Mm-hmm.
Then they wait for a hearing,
right,
which could take weeks or months considering the backlog. So not only is somebody detained, but then they wait for months for their hearing. Mr. President-elect, next week, President Trump.
Tomorrow.
Calls for shortening that period. He just wants to get them and then get them out, expedite the hearings, and in some sense, I think that might be a positive over what's happening now.
Really, less investigation into the case. How would that manifest itself, do you think?
How much investigation can they do of 350,000 people at a time? Some children.
Yeah. And how do they find out about them in the first place? Or are they just rounding up anyone with skin, or in the Muslim case, people with beards? Dark hair and beards. Is this what he's going to do, do you think? Or would be slightly worse than what Obama's been doing with
you bring
processing.
up that whole issue of racial profiling. How does that? How do they profile? What is a profile?
Right. Yeah.
Dark skin.
Sure.
Language skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all that. Yes. And will they be wearing little badges when they,
Yeah.
Anyway, but so why?
So
President Obama, yes, set a record for deporting people. It was back in 2014. He ordered a review of deportation practices, acknowledging the toll that record high deportation rates are taking on local communities, not just people being split from their families and children left here because they were born here,
United States
parents
citizen.
sent away, but taxes. I mean, a lot of these guys, even though a lot of them are paid in cash.
Many of them.
Apparently, there's quite a high. There are billions of dollars being paid in taxes and Social Security payment benefits and payments into the taxes.
That's right. They pay their taxes and don't get the benefits.
Right. Yeah.
But
except in California.
One of the big draws, though, to immigration are jobs, obviously, and during the recession, when jobs were drying up, you had a net return to Mexico. People, if you want to get rid of them, take away their jobs in a sense.
Right.
So what does that mean? That means employers are really responsible for the immigration.
Well, and there are these, if you're not allowed to employ illegal aliens, I mean undocumented immigrants, whatever you want to call them. What is the acceptable term now? I've forgotten.
Removables.
The removables. You're not allowed to. I mean, if you're going to pay someone, you're supposed to have their Social Security number and all, right? I mean, there are disincentives for employers to do that. But, of course, we know that that's not happening in agriculture or in Marin County or Sonoma County, where you drive up to the 7-Eleven. There's a couple of guys just waiting there. You pick them up. You pay them in cash at the end of the day. Drop them off. Done.
Farm workers. The farmers are not that thrilled by this policy. They're integral now to the harvesting of food.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, we won't have strawberries, lettuce.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hard work in the
hard labor, stoop labor in the fields.
That's right.
These are jobs that could be filled by middle-class white people.
On the other hand, we have major corporations that are facilitating this. I was at a hotel maybe about a month ago, a family reunion, and a woman came to clean my room. She had absolutely zero language skills for the United States, no English whatsoever. She was young. I can't imagine she came in here with papers, and yet this is Marriott, who is actually employing undocumented.
Sure, of course. It's part of doing business in the States, isn't it? Especially in California and Texas.
Well, major corporations. I'm wondering, what do they think about the removables?
Yeah, we're going to have to pay more for people who actually have documentation or live or were born here. National Weather Service in San Francisco has issued a high surf warning in effect from noon Friday to 4 Saturday. A very large swell train will arrive along the coast Friday afternoon and continue through Saturday. Peak swells expected on Friday night and Saturday. Swell heights as high as 24 to 28 feet at 14 to 15 second periods. Impacts include large breaking waves, strong rip currents, and sneaker waves. This will result in very dangerous swimming conditions and deadly rip currents. That is what's going on here. So there was a case in Marin, 4 or 5 years ago, where a local guy who worked at a local business in Marshall was involved in a traffic accident, and he ended up being deported, which at the time, I'm not sure when the Marin County, when this changed. Maybe it was 2014. The sheriff's office no longer notifies ICE, the Immigration and
Exactly.
Blah, blah. I see. We should know what that stands for. I'm sorry. If you know what ICE stands for, give us a call. 12415-663-8492. If they will notify Immigration Customs Enforcement. There you go. They will notify ICE if someone reports suspected immigration violations, if someone turns somebody in. A deputy's suspicion about any person's immigration status shall not be used as a sole basis to initiate contact, detain, or arrest that person, unless such status is reasonably relevant to the investigation of a crime such as trafficking, smuggling, harboring, and terrorism. Sweeps intended solely to locate and detain undocumented immigrants are not permitted by the sheriffs. The sheriffs will not take part. Deputies will not participate in ICE-organized sweeps to locate and detain undocumented aliens. Marin County Sheriff's Office personnel may, however, provide support services, including traffic control, during an ICE operation, upon the specific request of ICE for assistance. So that was a change that came after there was that big sweep in the Canal District in San Rafael where ICE came in huge force and backed up by sheriffs, I believe, and just went from apartment to apartment picking people up.
Now, did you learn about that big sweep in the Canal District from the newspaper?
Yes, I did. Here we are. But now there's an ongoing policy with the Marin County Sheriff's Department to maintain contact among the community, Hispanic community especially in the Canal District, especially in Santa Rosa, and San Rafael, but in Santa Rosa as well, the same thing, Sonoma County. Actually sort of community policing instead of this sort of federal top-down come in, take 100,000, 500 people away and send them back to wherever they came from, Nicaragua.
Are we going to be handling this conversation all by ourselves, or is
yes,
somebody
I think
come
so.
in?
But unless somebody calls in 415-663-8492 or tweet us at Let's Talk on KWMR. Yes, so ICE immigration detainees. There are detainer requests. The Sheriff's Department will not hold someone who has no immigration papers on that, that has anything on a charge or because he has no immigration status. But unless ICE sends in a request for a detainer, 48-hour detainer, and if they don't come and pick him up within 48 hours, and they're free to go, which was the case with that guy in San Francisco, the guy who ended up shooting a woman in the Embarcadero somewhere, which was great fodder for,
So does that mean that if I'm stopped for speeding and a ticket's being written, that means he's not going to check my immigration status?
He'll ask for ID if you don't have ID. In California now, and you can have ID if you don't have immigration status. But they're not actually, I'm not sure that they're actually allowed to ask what your status is. But if you're driving without a license.
Obviously. But if you have a driver's license, they can't ask for any more than that?
They can't ask to see a green card. No, that's not... That's not what they do, I think, generally in California and certainly in Marin County. It's not it's nothing to do with them, really. It's a federal thing. That in California, we're not that terribly worried about it, apparently. It's not an official stance that they're going to investigate that very deeply. And we have a caller. Caller, you're on the air. What's your name, please? Keep it clean.
Carolina.
Carolina, how are you?
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Carolina.
Well, actually, I've got a cold, but...
well.
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
Right.
So, tell us, you're an expert on these matters, as I you're a Marshall resident. We both know you, so and we know that you're deeply involved with immigration problems. Give us some background. Give us your opinions.
Well, yeah, I wasn't exactly sure what to say, but I definitely have a lot that I'm thinking about all this. I teach ESL, so I'm very connected with people who have recently arrived, or arrived a while ago, and those raids. That was in 2007, the raids in the canal, and I was teaching in the canal at that time.
Uh-huh.
And people were really scared.
Sure.
And, some of my students actually had come to their buildings, but they hadn't opened the door, which was really smart.
Mm.
But, and after that we made a movie called Why We Come, which we actually showed in...
I remember that.
Yeah. But anyway, so...
is that available anywhere now?
It is. I actually have some.
Is it online somewhere? Or?
That's a good question. We were a little reluctant to put it online, just not to have the whole world have access to who these people are. Even though we do not say names, but still. But I guess I could bring some down to the station.
Yeah. Well, how would our vast listening audience get hold of one? What would that?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, what it is it's stories of migrants who live in San Rafael and why they left their countries. Often it's because the conditions are so terrible they can't make their living, or there's a lot of violence that they need to escape.
Right, and part of the reason...
El Salvador.
They're in danger often.
Yeah, of course.
And I think the problem with expediting these... the detention centers are horrible.
Yeah.
But you've got to give people time to apply for asylum.
Okay.
And so that's the problem with expediting and deporting people immediately.
Right, there will be no chance for any recourse to that.
Right, because some people really deserve asylum, because you can get asylum if you're escaping violence and you are in danger going back to your country.
2 million people came from El Salvador, and only 2% of those people were granted asylum.
Wow, right, yes.
2%. Wow.
Caused... The United States has got its finger in this. They supported the war against communists, which is one of the reasons everyone left.
Yeah, and villages got bombed. People were picked off. Leaders who were just trying to find justice were picked off and killed, and so people needed to escape.
And what other role do you think the U.S. government has in the mass sort of immigration from Central America, but especially Mexico?
I think, the North American Free Trade Agreement is one, because part of that agreement is that there can be no subsidies. Previously, a lot of people since NAFTA was signed have left the countryside because they can't make their living anymore growing food. And there aren't enough jobs, because that's the other thing of the free trade agreement. There's all these imports, and there no longer can be any tariffs, so the countries can't build up their own industries. And so, actually, there's less industry in Mexico than there was, and less jobs.
Wow.
So so there's an economic reason, and then there's the violence. And the U.S. The part of the U.S. with the violence is that we're giving this amazing amount of military aid to Mexico, and it's being used to repress the population, and we're also selling all these guns.
Right.
They get in the hands of the gangs, and unfortunately the drug cartels are totally in cahoots with the government and the military and the police.
Yeah.
So...
a whole lot of corruption. And it's not a journey that anyone would take lightly. It's not like they're coming up here on vacation,
Children.
It's a huge risk every step of the way.
And children as well.
Yeah. It's obvious that it's a humanitarian crisis wherever they're coming from. It's not just, we're going up there to take advantage or, take jobs away from Americans.
Right. Yeah, because most of the jobs are not jobs. I mean, they can't find people to do them here.
Of course.
And then partly because they don't pay enough.
Right.
But also Honduras. A lot of people are coming from Honduras now because of the violence. And we supported that coup.
Of course.
Yeah. So
what's the atmosphere now among the people that you know in the Hispanic community? Are they less worried than they were, or are they really worried by Trump's?
People are really worried. I mean, I'll just give you an example. My daughter is now teaching in a high school in Hayward, and she's teaching Spanish. She's teaching AP Spanish to people who already speak Spanish. So it's all Latinos. And the day after the election, they basically didn't do regular classes. The kids were crying. The kids were really scared. They had meetings to discuss how people feel and how they would protect them. Because it's scary.
Right.
It was pretty scary under Obama, too, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about that?
Hang on, Carolina. Let me just do a station break here. It's KWMR 90.5 in Point Reyes Station, 89.9 Bolinas, and 92.3 San Geronimo Valley, streaming live on kwmr.org. And the National Weather Service in San Francisco has issued a high surf warning in effect from noon Friday to 4 p.m. Very large swell train arriving Friday afternoon through Saturday. Peak swells as high as 24 to 28 feet. Impacts include large breaking waves, strong rip currents, and sneaker waves. This will result in very dangerous swimming conditions and deadly rip currents. Be careful at the beach, please. Have you been to KWMR's website lately? It's brand new for 2017 with a fresh look, a user-friendly format, and a new Tip This Show feature where you can make a donation to a specific show. Oh, nice. You can check out our new website at kwmr.org. And KWMR is supported by Ken's Carpets and Flooring. Family-owned and operated, Ken's Carpets has been supplying Marin County with natural wool carpet and hardwood since 2002. Ken's Carpets and Flooring is located at 1914 4th Street on the Miracle Mile in San Rafael and online at kenscarpets.com. KWMR also supported by the Dillon Beach Emergency Response Team, a non-profit group trained and standing ready to assist when a disaster occurs. Volunteers with emergency skills are always needed, but everyone is welcome to join trainings. Online at www.getreadydb.org. That's get ready, the letter D, the letter B.org. Information also available by email at DillonBeachERT@gmail.com. So, yes, Carolina, thank you for waiting a little while. So, the tension now is pretty high because of all the rhetoric that's been floating around.
Yeah, and who knows if it will be worse or not.
Right.
Because it was pretty bad under Obama.
Right.
He deported more people than any other president.
Yeah, and did that show in Marin County?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
So more ICE raids, more... How do ICE find out about undocumented immigrants?
Well, it's this thing about the holds. So that was interesting what you said, because I thought we had passed, but maybe Marin County is a little backwards, that the police would, or the sheriff would not do ICE holds. But if they are doing 48-hour holds, that's really bad.
Oh, well, I can check on that. Keep going.
Yeah. One of our neighbors was deported.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. So,
yeah, that was sad, wasn't it?
And, if people just have some kind of run-in with the law, but they're not criminals.
Right.
It's...
not usually, anyway. Yeah.
Yeah,
no more than anybody else.
That we would consider criminals, but people get picked up for traffic offenses, domestic violence, things that are, not that domestic violence is minor, but sometimes the people need treatment for that kind of thing. They don't need to be deported.
Right, exactly.
And
so here's a passage from the General Order of the Marin County Sheriff's Office of June 11th, 2014, about ICE immigration detainees. Detainer requests will not be honored unless ICE conducts a probable cause hearing before local charges have expired or a federal magistrate has issued a warrant. Upon receipt of evidence of an ICE probable cause hearing with an affirmative finding of probable cause, the ICE detainer will be honored, but only if the criteria stated below has been met. The Trust Act provides that a person may not be held in custody solely on the basis of an immigration detainer if he or she is otherwise eligible to be released from custody. So,
yay. Okay, that's really good. Yeah, because before you said something about 48 hours. Yeah, that Trust Act was put forward by Tom Amiano a couple of years. I can't remember how long ago it was now, but yeah, it's a really good thing that California has passed.
Right. If he
and
or
I
she
think
is
they're about to pass something else. They're working on.
Oh, really?
Because of what Trump has said. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's now in front of the state assembly.
It may all change elsewhere anyway. I don't know that it'll change here in Marin, but anyway. Inmates who are eligible for release from custody may not be held pursuant to an immigration hold beyond the time he or she would otherwise be released, unless the conditions set forth in subparagraphs A to F apply. There's a whole list of terrible felonies that they would have to commit. But who is that? Oh, that's your phone, yeah. Somebody on the line.
My phone?
Is it? Oh, it's yours.
It was me. I wanted to look up 14th Amendment because I don't want to butt in here because we're learning so much from you. But Trump's cohorts want to repeal the 14th Amendment because it permits someone born in the United States citizenship automatically.
Really? So
they're saying, let's repeal it. But the interesting part about it is that amendment also provides for equal protection of the laws.
Then those people would not be citizens of anywhere.
Yeah,
that's true.
Exactly.
And so
Do you
many.
think this was aimed at Obama? We never want another Obama with a foreign father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but so many of those kids grew up in the United States their whole lives, have no strong Spanish speaking skills, could find themselves deported.
Yes, and that's really happened a lot with Haitians. Kids that were, the Haitians I've heard about are ones that were not born here but came when they were between 1 and 5 years old, and then they get in something with the law because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they serve their time, and as soon as their time is served, they're deported. And they don't speak Creole.
Yeah.
And they have to go to this country where there's no work.
Yeah. Right.
And where they don't know the culture and they don't know people.
And the infrastructure is almost destroyed and hasn't been rebuilt yet from earthquakes and hurricanes that have passed through there. Yeah. We actually have another caller on the other line. Caller number 2. You're on the air. What's your name, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Oh, because I just hear the radio. I wasn't sure.
Hi.
The radio.
Is this Victor? It sounds like Victor.
Sounds like me. How are you?
Good. Where are you?
I'm in Puebla, Mexico.
Oh, my goodness. Excellent. What do you have to say about this whole subject?
Well, among other things, you guys already mentioned quite a bit about the issue, but just for instance, that ironically, the reason why Obama started deporting so many people, it was trying to convince Republicans to pass the immigration reform. Among other things, not the only reason, though. But that's ironic because he didn't get anything and deport more people than anybody else, any other president.
So it was a political move to try to get some kind of change in immigration policy, which didn't work.
I would say ineffective.
Republicans, they get along with the immigration reform and then telling them, but I'm complying with the law. Because there's a lot of double standard in this issue of immigration. This country, U.S., welcomes immigrants, undocumented immigrants, and at the same time is trying to apply the law.
Yeah.
You have a lot of contradictions right there. And of course, Carolina was talking about political asylum, for instance. Political asylum is also a political game that is not given or granted to people who really need it.
Sure.
Because it depends on what is the official American policy on any particular Central American or other countries. The best example was with Guatemala. In the late 90s and early 2000s, I was doing interpretations for political asylum. I went with people over to San Francisco. And they were granting political asylum to Guatemalans only, because according to the U.S., the government then was not good. And so then officially Guatemalans were granted political asylum. But with the peace was signed in Guatemala, I don't remember exactly the year, 99 or 2000 or so, immediately Guatemalans were not granted political asylum because for the U.S., they could get back to their country.
Yeah.
Because things were supposed to be good just by signing that treatment, which of course was not the case.
Right, it was
many
still...
Guatemalans, because they were called to the interview of political asylum, which sometimes was 10 or 15 years after they applied.
Wow.
They simply didn't get granted, and many were deported for that reason. However, many of the people who go through all these processes trying to get something to legalize, even political asylum, but not only, when they get the letter to leave the country, they simply vanish. Just change address and go away and become, let's say, that doubly or twice as documented. I don't know whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Those are the people that sometimes are captured and deported. Be criminal or whatever.
Right. So
many people who have a deportation letters or calls,
right,
who are just living anywhere. They just move.
So at the time they sent out letters to their homes and did not come and enforce it. I mean, they didn't come with the guys banging on the door to drag them away. That was more...
Well, there were so many. In a given point, ICE didn't have enough staff, enough personnel to be deporting every single individual and going to their houses to do that. Apparently, Obama improved that. But they knew that it was impossible, you know? So they do it partly, but they are not as effective as they could be simply because it's an enormous task to achieve.
Right. And so...
Do it better in the way Carolina was mentioning. So simply when someone gets in any trouble with law, I know people who was arrested just because they were sitting on the sidewalk having a couple of beers, as they do it in their countries. But, you know, it's by ignorance, a lot of these things, and they were arrested, and then they were there in the county jail, and then ICE was called, and they were deported in that way. Plus thousands, millions of different cases, you know.
Yeah. Stevie.
Does this... do people, are they reluctant to go out in public in some sense for recreation, thinking twice about being in a common place that they might be considered unwanted? You said people were just arrested because he sat there having a couple beers. Well, is this something that is common consideration? People say, "No, I don't want to go out there."
Carolina or Victor?
People are mostly afraid. What I mean is that many people really have a lot of difficulty adapting to the way life is in USA. What is more common happens all the time, and you don't see it necessarily when you talk to them, is that they feel that they are not in their place, and they feel in a very strange case where everything is nice and beautiful and organized, but still the not belonging feeling is incredibly strong. They don't know exactly what to do. They just follow the others like them, and often their advice that they get for others like them is wrong.
I imagine that in New Mexico and Arizona, things are happening that we are not even aware of here in Marin County.
I think they're happening here too. I mean, people come. I know a kid that was picked up for drinking the same thing, drinking a beer and not knowing it wasn't legal to drink a beer on the streets of San Francisco, being used to being here in West Marin, and but fortunately he's a citizen who was born here. But the police really pick up brown people, brown and black people. They pick on them more than others. Whenever I see the police stopping people in San Francisco, it's almost always brown or black people.
Yeah, that's right.
It's really, so that's definitely racial profiling.
Yeah. So we hear a lot from Republicans that these sanctuary cities. San Francisco calls itself a sanctuary city. Are you saying that it's not necessarily as safe for?
They're going to be punished.
Yeah.
I think it is safer than other. Well, it's definitely safer than Phoenix, Arizona.
Right.
But and like the schools. I mean, part of being a sanctuary city is the hospitals and the schools and all those public institutions will not turn anybody in for anything. Yeah, I mean for immigration reasons. Yeah.
But if San Francisco police pick them up, don't they have the same policy that Marin County does, that they won't automatically notify ICE? Or
right, I believe that is the policy in San Francisco.
Okay.
Even more than Marin County. Well, the Trust Act is all of California, but San Francisco, I think, is more sanctuary oriented.
Yeah, okay, let me just read this. We have a National Weather Service high surf warning in effect from noon Friday to 4 Saturday. Very large swell train will arrive along the coast Friday afternoon, continue through Saturday. Peak swells are expected to be Friday night and Saturday, with swell heights as high as 24 to 28 feet. Impacts include large breaking waves, strong rip currents, and sneaker waves. Look out at the beach. This will result in very dangerous swimming conditions and deadly rip currents, and I'm guessing interesting boating. Anyway, so what do you is it going to be scarier under Trump? I mean, we have images of cattle trains heading to the border or going to the FEMA camps in Humboldt County or whatever, wherever they are. That there's this I think we all have images of sort of concentration detention camps, and
it's happened before.
Yeah, well, it's happened before, exactly, with the Japanese, yeah, for sure. Under times of war, but of course we're always at war. Is that a real threat, do you think, Carolina or Victor?
Probably, and especially for Muslims. I mean, I think also we haven't even mentioned Muslims.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Trump is really anti-Muslim.
Yeah.
And they wanted to make this registry. That's kind of like what they did with the Japanese.
And the Jews.
The Jews, yes, exactly. Right.
Very sensitive about that.
Yeah. Obviously, nobody knows now.
Right.
Everybody is guessing.
Mm-hmm.
So here in Mexico, there are a lot of things. You can see things every day in newspapers and so, and strong criticisms to Mexican president and politicians and so on.
So do you think there's...
I'm sorry?
Do you think there's an exodus of Mexicans, especially from the north? Do you think that's going to happen?
That already happened even before. It happened in Arizona, happened in some other places. It happened when Katrina, for instance. Because a lot of people were pushed out of New Orleans and all those places there in Louisiana. And a lot of Mexicans have returned voluntarily and not voluntarily. Because what this situation causes mostly is panic and terror and a lot of gossiping and stories that are not true.
Right.
Because people don't know.
Isn't the exodus related to jobs?
Kind of thing comes up.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Isn't the exodus related to jobs? From what I've read, there is it's in balance right now. There's as many Mexicans leaving as are coming in, and I think that is job related.
Meaning that there are more jobs happening in Mexico now, or
less jobs here.
Oh, right.
No, but not more jobs in Mexico. And the problem is with the less jobs in Mexico, and then some youth who don't have any possibilities, one way that they can make enough money to support their family is through selling drugs or somehow relating to the drug trade. And, I mean, that's here in certain neighborhoods also, because there's just aren't possibilities for people, and people need to make money somehow.
So these are the 2 million criminals.
Right. I learned something really interesting the other day. I went to this day of talking about how we can build a resistance to what Trump is saying that he's going to do. And it was in Berkeley. It was on the UC campus. And a guy from this group, Homies Unidos, was there from L.A., Alexander Sanchez, and he was talking about people who used to be in these gangs who have gotten together here and formed this Homies Unidos, and it's actually more than one gang that are rivals. But these people are trying to prevent violence, and he was talking about how they deport these criminals, so-called criminals, and some of them have done terrible things, and some have just been in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they deport them back to El Salvador. He's Salvadoran, and those gangs have formed there. Actually, they originally formed here in the ghettos, but now those gangs are really powerful there, and they've basically taken over. The government can't control them, and that's part of the violence people are trying to escape from. And people go back to El Salvador, and now there's what do you call it? The technology is that they can actually check in El Salvador whether somebody's been convicted of any crime here, and then they can't get jobs. And so they have even if they want to make a new life, they can't find any way to make their living because the economics in El Salvador is really bad.
You know, this is not widespread, but I was reading that deportees to El Salvador who have strong English skills are being hired as in the service industry. When you get one of those calls, call for information, and there's someone from India or another country. Well, now they're in El Salvador as well.
Oh yeah. I think he even mentioned that. But I don't know if you can get those jobs if you have anything on your record.
Well, I was reading that they do. These people are...
In countries like El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, whatever, it's very easy to cheat. It's actually a national sport. It's very, very common. It's just the way things go. You know, the tradition of corruption at any level is so part of everyday life that it's even very difficult to understand with an American mentality. And it's not necessarily because you are corrupt because life is easier if you know how to deal with corruption, even minimum corruption, like getting a spot in the paying a bill or whatever, Or you want to go to a theater and then you know someone there, and then they give you a preference place or whatever. There's major ways of being corrupt. But at the same time this happens, there are a lot of mostly young people who were deported or they get back here to Mexico. You can see them in a lot of places where there are tourists. They start speaking English to you right away.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you talk to them sometimes and they tell you, well, I live in whatever, in USA.
Yeah.
There are so many problems related to that, to the fact that now there are more Mexicans getting back to Mexico than actually going up to the States. More. So that's what now you say that the immigration from Mexico is zero, which is a very small number.
Interesting.
10 years ago, there was no less than 500,000 more Mexicans in USA a year.
So the wall is...
some people say there were even 1 million a year.
Right.
Makes the wall no sense at all.
No sense building the wall. Well, unless things aren't as bad as we all think they might be. Ooh. Yeah. Well, Victor, thank you so much for calling all the way from Puebla. It's wonderful to hear your voice.
And listen to the program.
Thank you for the subject.
Thank you, Victor, and hope to see you at some point. All right.
Yeah, see you soon, Victor.
And Carolina, thank you so much for coming in with your expertise today. It was wonderful.
Well, I don't know if it's expertise, but
you've been
experience.
You've been involved. Yeah, a lot of experience, I'd say.
Have you been swimming in this ice cold water?
Well, I'm certainly not going to this afternoon. No, not lately.
Yeah.
It's pretty ice cold, and I keep getting colds.
That's right. Well, lots of fluids.
Maybe in February.
Good. Take care of yourself.
Yes, you too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Yeah.
So, that was very nice, wasn't it? Getting a call from Mexico and from Marshall all at the same time. Wonderful thing. So this has been Let's Talk. KWMR does not take a stand on any of the issues discussed on Let's Talk. Opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and callers and don't necessarily reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members.
Oh, I want to thank all the people that called in, especially, we got some really knowledgeable calls. And perhaps next week we'll have the same response, another important issue for people to get involved in.
Yeah, we don't know what that is yet.
It'll be good. It's going to be good.
It'll be good. Let's hope Robin is feeling better next week and she'll be able to take part. Anyway, tune in every Thursday. It's every Thursday at 11. It's Let's Talk, and it's the call-in show for the people of West Marin and beyond, because we're on the World Wide Web.